Hello and welcome back. As you can see, Bermuda has decided to join us from the beginning. Usually I'm reading and I don't want to interrupt, but we'll take this very brief moment to say that Bermuda is very happy that you are joining him, and he accepts all kinds of treats, loves, positive energy. Don't you, boo-boo? Yes. So anyway, oh, and also my shirt, I don't know if you can see it or not, it says Father of Cats, and it's in the motif of Game of Thrones, as in Mother of Dragons. I get to be Father of Cats. Kind of cool. Alright, so other small bit of housekeeping news. One of the reasons I really started these videos was to just provide like a forum for the chapters to kind of come out and kind of get some feedback on the chapters that are happening, and then also just provide some extra motivation of getting this book done. It was turning out to be extra huge and I was just feeling overwhelmed. So I'm very happy to say that these videos have really done that. I treasure and value every comment that I get. It's inspiring, it's fun, I like talking to you. I love hearing some of the theories that you come up with. I do not try and give away too much stuff, just because I feel like it kind of destroys the book a little bit if you know what's exactly coming up, as opposed to just guessing and hoping for the best. So anyway, I hope that works out for you. So anyway, so beginning on chapter 11, odds and taxes. So we finished off the last deal where he had just fought Centaur Guard Dumbass, and he had just taken care of him and got his hand raised in the traditional boxer pose of this is congratulations winner. And so the match has just ended, and that's right where this picks up. I waved at CL, who was prancing up and down beside the circle in excitement. He quickly ran up the ramp, and as he came closer, his excitement turned to concern. "Are you okay?" he asked. I grabbed his arm and held on to it. That was harder than it should have been, as I was still slick with lotion. "Help me back to the locker room," I said quietly. He nodded, and we hobbled out of the ring and back into the tunnel. I know that wasn't a big championship exit, but it was better than the risk of having my leg give way and having to crawl out of the ring. Once we made it into the tunnel and out of the sight of the crowds, I threw up. I was finally feeling all the adrenaline in my system. My legs shook, and it felt like I was in shock. I spat a few times to clear out my mouth, then I turned back to CL. "Can you carry me?" "Of course," he said, scooping me up. Our guide trotted in front of us, showing us the way back. Bermuda ran behind us, looking completely unconcerned. Once we made it to the room, I had CL set me down in front of the sink, and I started using a hand towel to wipe off the lotion and glitter. "Young master, let me take care of that," CL said as he took the hand towel from me. "After all, I am an expert in cleaning." He pulled out his Feather C250 and began working his unique brand of magic. I held onto the sink, closed my eyes, and focused inward. "Tea?" I called. "I'm right here," he answered. "I assume you're here about your leg?" I zoomed in for a closer look, because this time he was covered in healing flowers. He always had a few flowers growing on him, but this time they covered him like they were his clothes. These flowers were actually healing runes. I figured out how to reverse engineer a healing charm back in its basic rune, and then how to modify that rune so it had flow. When I'd added the rune to my int, he transformed it into a flower, and that then grew on him. "Yes, I'm here about my leg," I replied. "This is a terrible time to get injured like this. I need to be able to attend the discussions tomorrow with Sandy. The way my leg feels right now, I think I could be in bed for a week." I didn't really think it would be a week. I'd seen T do some amazing things, but I was in a serious amount of pain. It really felt like my leg was broken. "The good news is, the bone is okay," he said. I sighed in relief. "The bad news is your thigh got hit really hard and it took a lot of damage. Don't worry, I've got my team working on it right now, but it'd be best if you didn't walk or stand on it for the rest of the night." "I can do that. I think, I replied. Now, why are you completely covered up in healing flowers? I'm worried about what it will take to heal CL's niece. This isn't a regular healing like we did with CL. Apparently she's been this way for a long time. I thought I would grow as many flowers as possible and see if that made a difference with my healing spores. What did you find out? I asked. Nothing yet, he said. You stopped me before I performed my first try. Oh, don't let me stop you, I explained. I need all the help I can get. It was awfully nice of you to volunteer to be the test subject, he said with a tree chuckle. If you hadn't offered to get injured like this, I'd have nothing to test my spores on. I'd hardly call it volunteering, I griped, but T just waved it away. I think he was genuinely excited to see how fast he could heal me. I wanted that too, so I let it slide. It's a shame you can't include the flower in the spore, I said thoughtfully. If the flower grew with the moss, you'd have hundreds more healing runes and they'd be all over the injured cells. That would really up the rune power. His eyes lit up. That is a fantastic idea. You can do that? I questioned. T seemed even more independent than my normal little creations. The grannies were always helpful, and the miners liked to drink and chip rocks. T gave me more of a mad scientist kind of vibe, although a very polite one. It's certainly worth a try. He gave me a quick bow, then headed off. He didn't even wait to say goodbye. I was going to ask if he wanted a quick top-up on power, but I guess he could do that himself from my gem cell batteries. I zoomed back out and focused on the regular world. CL had finished cleaning me up, and now he was giving himself a quick once-over too. When he'd carried me, he'd gotten covered in my twinkly goo. I ran my hands over my abs. The glitter and the extra slick lotion were gone, and now my skin felt very hydrated and healthy. This was just like a day at the spa. At the spa, it included an attempted smackdown and a sledgehammer to the leg. I thanked CL and was getting his help putting on my clothes when there was a knock at the door and the captain in goggles came into the room. Congratulations on your match, the captain said. I can honestly say I've never seen anything like it. Is he going to be okay? I asked. The captain nodded. I think so. The medics tell me he has lots of bruising and broken bones, but his organs are okay and his vital signs are strong. I felt a part of me relax. I had no desire to kill him. Sure, he was a dumbass for turning this into a fighting match, but I didn't want him to come to any lasting harm. I'm sorry all this happened, I told her. I wanted everything to stay simple and easy. This was supposed to be just a quick in and out. I don't blame you at all, she said, shaking her head. I consider this to be his fault. He should have done a quick ceremonial encounter right there at the entrance. Instead, he let his pride control his actions, and he's paying the price for that today. He'll live, though, and be wiser for it. So now that I've done your fight and managed to win, would you consider me a guest of your people? I asked. She seemed surprised at my wording, but she still nodded. Yes, you are free to travel through our land and visit the individual you are seeking. While you are here, you are a guest of our people. Excellent. Then as a guest, I'm formally requesting assistance with my quest. I phrased that a bit formally, but I was hoping that the custom of guest rights was honored here. I loved reading fantasy books, and there was an obligation that came with being a guest in elven lands. These were totally different people, and this was a real place, not some fantasy world, but being a guest was universal. Her eyebrows popped up in surprise, so I quickly continued. There are a lot of people out there that now know my name and what I look like. Thousands of people have bet on dumbass, which means there are going to be a lot of losers that are not happy with me. I still have to be back in time to recover a bit and be part of the gathering tomorrow. The Grand Matron won't be happy if I spend too much time outside of the regular course of events, so that means the rest of my visit here needs to happen quickly. The Grand Matron probably didn't even know my name, and she probably didn't care if visiting mages got up to other adventures, but it couldn't hurt to remind the captain that I was part of the gathering and needed to get back to it. Well, you are smarter than you look, she said. I think I just got dissed. Did I look dumb? For someone so young, you have a good situational awareness. Oh, good. She just thought I was young. I liked being young. I was afraid I'd have to convince you that you needed my help, and here you are asking for it. I'm actually quite proud of you. I gave her a big smile. Thank goodness we were both thinking the same thing. I had a good feeling about you. That's why I bet on you. I made a right tidy sum tonight. She looked very pleased with herself. Now I'll let you finish getting ready while I organize the support for the rest of your evening. She had bet on me? That was kind of cool. Her suggestion to get slicked up had been very helpful. If Dumbass had been able to grab me, the fight would have turned out very differently. The captain left the room and Goggles stepped forward. He started to speak, but I held up my hand. Hold up, please. I have to sit down. I've been holding onto the sink and putting all my weight on my left leg. I was dressed, and now I needed to get off my feet for a moment. Fortunately, the locker room had benches and one was close. CL helped me hop over and I lay down on it. I put my leg up on the bench and groaned in relief. It felt so nice to have my leg elevated a bit. Bermuda hopped up on my chest, settled in, and started purring. I'm glad I could make this bench extra comfortable for him. Goggles had moved with us, and he was standing so it was easy for me to see him. I appreciated his thoughtfulness, as now I didn't want to move at all. Okay, I said to him, what you got for me? I know you were in pain, and I trust that what I'm about to say will ease your suffering and make all this worthwhile, he said smoothly. I must admit, I was looking forward to hearing how much I'd won. When last we spoke, the odds against you were quite high, 48-1, I believe. I nodded at him. That's what I remembered. They did not stay that way. Well, that had an ominous ring. So what did they end up, I asked. After I left, the odds came down quite a bit, he said. The story of why you were here began to circulate, and that resulted in a lot of sympathy bets. Everyone loves an underdog, of course, and an underdog that is fighting for the right reasons, even better. Also, it got around that you'd placed a large bet on yourself, and that show of confidence inspired others. I believe the odds got as low as 12-1 during this time. 12-1? Damn! That would only net me about 3,000 pearls instead of 12,000. Goggles had a twinkle in his eye. His story wasn't finished yet. The odds changed again when your opponent stepped into the circle. He looked so imposing and powerful that the odds against you went up and kept climbing. 15-1, 18-1, 22-1. Goggles was really getting into his story. His hands were following the flow of the odds, and he made wide gestures when he talked about the crowd of bettors. He was so animated I had to smile. Clearly he loved his job. When you came out, looking so calm and composed, the odds stopped. His voice dropped to a whisper, building for the big moment. They didn't go down, but they stopped climbing. Then the big moment happened. He gained in volume. Both of you stood across from each other as the referee was speaking, and the true magnitude of what you would have to overcome in order to win was displayed. This wasn't just Mage versus Centaur. This was David's versus Goliath, the Badger versus the Water Buffalo. The odds changed for their final time. Both of you went to your sides. The referee yelled, "Fight!" and the betting stopped. He paused, eyes shining, breathing fast from all that excitement. I could practically hear the roar of the crowds as they placed their last bet. The final odds stood at 52-1, he declared. My mouth popped open in surprise. He'd done such a great job of underselling the odds, I thought we would end up in the low 30s. I'd even have been happy with the upper 20s, but 52-1, wow. So how many pearls does that come out to? I wasn't feeling that great at math at the moment, so I just asked. Your official winnings start at 13,000 pearls, he exclaimed. Then he got serious. Of course, that isn't the actual amount you take home. Of course, I said. Back home, I'm a poker player, so I know you gotta tip the dealer, and the house, and the doorman, and pay taxes, Goggles said sadly. Remember, we had to run everything through CL, so the taxes are all going to fall on him. How much are we talking? I asked apprehensively. The tax holdings are 50%, he said. CL nodded mournfully. Damn, that was as bad as the U.S. Remember that detail, everything that came out of the winning. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Phew. Rather than detail everything that came out of the winnings, why don't you tell me what the final number is? I said. Take out all the customary tips and make sure they get to the right people. I know I started out at 250 pearls. How much do I have now? Your final winnings are 5,219 pearls, Goggles said. Wow, that was a lot. I know it wasn't 13,000 pearls, but I wasn't complaining either. I'd started this event at 0. I didn't know I even had anything of value. Now I had 15,000 pearls. I didn't really know how valuable that was, but Seal and Dumbass had thought 5 pearls was a big deal. What I had now was 1,000 times that much. I'm hoping you kept something for yourself, I asked him. He nodded. The amount was modest and appropriate, he said. Good, I said. I wouldn't even know where to start. I looked at CL. You should keep some of the winnings too. I'm using your account after all. He got a big grin on his face. I appreciate the idea, but like the captain, I bet on you too. I originally only wagered a small amount. I wanted to be supportive, but I'm normally very careful with my money. As the oldest working centaur, my salary is quite small. But then I thought about how you'd healed me and how you moved and punched in the locker room, and I ended up betting more. A lot more. I got the same odds you did, so my niece and I are now doing quite a bit better than we were. We are going to be okay. You have helped me so much already, and you're going to help us even more. We should be paying you, not the other way around. I shifted slightly and grimaced as the pain in my leg flared up. You can help me plenty by just carrying me around, I said. As for the pearls, can you work with Sandy to get them transferred over to her? Once I get a bank account, she can then transfer them to me. There is one more thing we need to cover, and that is your prize earnings, Goggles said. How much was that again, I asked. Your opponent put up 5 pearls and you matched his amount, so the prize is a total of 10 pearls, Goggles replied. Can I refuse the prize and give it back to him, I asked. 10 pearls was a tiny amount compared to the thousands I had now. Dumbass was going to be out of work for weeks. I'm sure 10 pearls would make a big difference in his life. You want to give up the entire prize of 10 pearls and give it to your opponent? Goggles looked very surprised. I nodded. Yes, I believe that can be done. This is normally the captain's responsibility, but since she will be with you for the remainder of the evening, I will take care of it. He made a note. There is one more thing. He looked over at CL. There was a young centaur who took... there is one more thing. I looked over at CL. There was a young centaur who took excellent care of Sandy and I at dinner tonight. He knows you because he told us you said hi. I didn't have any pearls to give him as a tip, and I'd like to make up for that. Ah, yes, I know him, CL said. He lives across the hall from us. He is a fine young Llama Centauros, and I knew he'll take excellent care of you. I ran my fingers... Phew, Lord. Ah, yes, I know him, CL said. He lived across the hall from us. He is a fine young Llama Centauro, and I knew he'd take excellent care of you. I'll make sure he is taken care of. I closed my eyes as Goggles and CL settled up accounts. I ran my fingers through Bermuda's fur as he licked my chin. It was a nice moment of quiet after all the excitement. My fur baby had shown me he had the mindset of a killer, but he loved me very much, and I loved him right back. I'd found no better time for peace and happiness than when we were cuddling and purring together. Well, except for when Tyler was here too. Then it was extra special happy. Super duper comfy cozy happy. When someone was not trying to kill me or beat me up, I really had a great life. The captain came back and Goggles headed out, but not before leaving me with the last comment. Young mage, the more I learn about you, the more it seems like excitement follows you around. I'm going to keep an eye on you during our time here. There may be an opportunity for us to celebrate together again. He wasn't wrong. My life was certainly exciting, and he was right. A wager did add some extra spice to events. Are you ready to continue? The captain asked. Yes, indeed, I replied, sitting up. CL had the bright idea of putting on the backpack, placing Bermuda in the backpack and then carrying me. That made the most sense, except Bermuda would have none of it. He would only get in the backpack if I was wearing it. So we ended up with CL carrying me, I wore the backpack, and I carried Bermuda. There is no reasoning with cat logic. CL carried me carefully out of the room and I met our new escorts. There were 10 big strapping guards, all of them handsome in their own way and decked out in full riot gear. They all had batons, padded armor, and padded shields. They were ready to rumble. "Form up," the captain commanded, and they moved smoothly into position around us. Then we all set off together. I thought CL had pulled me along quickly before, but I now discovered that was his slow speed. We flat out moved. I felt like we were riding the wind as he effortlessly carried me along. It seemed like I was in the Avengers, with Wonder Woman in the lead, the Valkyries all around us, and Jarvis, my butler, providing the assist. Okay, I stretched the analogy a bit, but it really felt epic. I put my arms around CL's shoulders and hung on as the wind whipped past my face. We went a totally different route from when we'd first arrived. The corridors were not quite as wide, and many of the centaurs we passed were carrying food. This must be a service passage. We made quite a bit of noise as we clomped along, and the other centaurs heard us and got the heck out of the way. We received lots of curious looks, but nobody challenged our passage. The service passageway eventually widened as we began to travel through a warehouse area. I got a quick glimpse through the huge doors, but there were boxes of all sorts of stuff and racks of shelves. I think it could have given Amazon a run for its money. We left the warehouse area and joined another hallway that looked more domestic. There were all kinds of restaurants, special shops with goods, and long hallways with doors that branched off from them. We went through several roundabouts before heading down one hallway containing well-spaced doors. Finally, we stopped at one door that looked quite pretty. The hallway wasn't fancy, like some of them I'd seen, but it was clean and well lit. Someone had drawn vines coming out of the ground, climbing up the wall, and covered in deep green leaves and lots of tiny flowers. The whole effect made the door look inviting, like I was stepping into a winter wonderland. "Here we are," CL said. He seemed a bit nervous. It was probably because he didn't normally come home with a mage, a captain, and a herd of guards. He touched the door with his foot and it opened for us. He was very carefully carrying me through the doorway, which my legs certainly appreciated. His place was homey and comfortable, and I liked it right away. I could tell there was a lot of love and memories here. The apartment was laid out like a normal 2-bedroom apartment would be back in America. We were in the living room, which turned into the kitchen area as it continued back. I saw what looked like a bedroom and a bathroom on the left, with what I guessed to be a master bedroom on the right. The space felt open and accessible, yet it was packed with memories. There were pictures everywhere, on the walls, on shelves, on end tables. There were also lots of figurines and knickknacks, most of which had brilliant colors and textures. The whole space was clean and orderly, and it called to the artist in me, which I'm sure was his niece's contribution. This place had life. I could relax here, eat here, laugh here. When we'd met, I'd instinctively felt that CL was a quality person. I felt that even more now I'd seen his home. The captain came in behind us and closed the door. CL put me down, and I held on to him as I met his niece for the first time. "Hello, Jason. Welcome to our home." I liked her immediately when she came up and gave me a hug. She was small, much smaller than CL, more like my height. She wasn't pretty in the classical sense, but her brown eyes shone with warmth and she looked like she laughed a lot. She had short brown hair, and she would have looked a little plain Jane, except for all the beautiful warm colors in her clothes. She'd gone with a dusty red base and layered Tuscan orange, honey yellow, and ochre with highlights of Egyptian blue and even some turquoise. It was like she was wearing her artistic soul and the joy of life. "My uncle tells me you do not have a translator, and as a result, have problems with our names. Since you call him CL, I thought I would offer something similar to match. How does NL sound to you?" That sounds wonderful, NL. I appreciate your thoughtfulness and I'm very pleased to meet you. I gave her a warm smile. First, we have to take care of our most important guest, she said, as she took the backpack from me and set it down in front of a plate of what looked to be tuna. Bermuda gave me a look that said, this woman clearly has her priorities straight, and then started in on his snack. We do not have any chairs as we have never entertained a human before, but I've made a bed of pillows for you. I hope that will work. I saw your fight, so I thought elevating your leg would be very beneficial. That sounds lovely, I said, as CL picked me up and put me down in her nest of pillows. It wasn't exactly a bed, but it was certainly comfortable. Once again, my right leg appreciated being fully relaxed and elevated. You've seen the fight already? I asked. How is that possible? Oh, I just pull it up on the viewer, she said. The messages went out pretty quickly about what was happening. I would imagine just about all the non-working members of the Centaur Nation have seen it at this point. I groaned. Does that mean all the Centaurs are going to hate me now? Oh, not at all, she said sharply. You had a good clean fight, no magic spells of any kind, and you beat him fair and square. He's a bit of a hothead and this isn't his first situation. She looked over at the captain. No offense, of course. None taken, she replied. NL turned back to me. I'm sure people will be upset at losing their pearls, but you have to understand that we bet on just about everything. If there isn't anything exciting, we find something stupid to bet on. The house opened up a new hallway last month, and the betting on how long it would be rose to furious levels. At least your match was exhilarating and something we haven't seen in a long time. She paused thoughtfully. Would you like to see it? Sure, I replied. I was curious to see exactly what a viewer was like. Was it better than a TV? I was here on business, but I had a few minutes to spare. It turned out the viewer was like a 3D TV, only amazingly high definition, and the size of the image could be adjusted as big as you wanted. I could see what the recorder was seeing, and the fight sure looked different when I wasn't actually a part of it. I couldn't believe how fast I was and how many near misses there had been. I felt like Dumbass had been taking it easy at the start of the fight, but looking at the replay, he'd been going fast and hard for the whole match. My attack segment was actually pretty short compared to how long he'd spent attacking me. I hadn't realized how fast I was attacking. It seemed like the fight just reversed abruptly and then he went down. Wow, it sure is strange seeing that from a different perspective, I said. It always is, the captain chimed in. The replay always seems so much quicker, and any mistakes you made always seem much more obvious. We could have talked about this all night, but instead I changed the topic. And Al, I'm sorry to rush this, but I don't have much time. Your uncle asked if I could try to heal you the same way I healed him. Is this something you want? I needed to ask this. Maybe CL wanted this more for his niece than she wanted it for herself. Change can be a scary thing. Yes, she said firmly. I'm almost afraid to hope this can happen. My life will be so different as I don't move around much now. She was going to say more, but I could see all sorts of emotions warring inside her. I'm also not sure I can make a difference, I said softly. I will certainly do my best, and I will just have to see what happens. She smiled nervously. I understand, she finally squeaked out. Sit beside me, I instructed. I need to be able to touch you. As she moved around and awkwardly positioned herself beside me, I could see the problem. Her legs seemed to be very stiff and uneven. She was used to them, so it wasn't a huge issue, but I'm sure it made running through the halls impossible. Once she was settled beside me, I put a hand on her and scanned her with my magic sight. It was as I thought. Some muscles were atrophied and not used at all. Some muscles were overused and they were way too big and stiff. Her joints were huge, way bigger than they should be. Maybe it was to compensate for the weird torque of her muscles. Not sure, but they needed work too. The good news was most of her bones were there, and they looked normal. Her spine was jacked up, but it was just compensating for the rest of her being out of balance. Hopefully, once her muscles got in sync, it would fix her spine too. T, you seeing all this? I asked. I can see what you see, so yes, I'm seeing all the problems, he replied anxiously. I've evolved myself a bit since some of my experiments worked. When you're ready, I'll duplicate and send my Grove members over. I zoomed in to see him. He was still densely covered in healing flower runes, and I thought he looked a little bit more detailed than he used to. I'm ready, I said, and he triggered his duplicate ruby 2 times. I decided 2 Ents were good. I'd used 2 on CL, and he was a bigger guy, but he hadn't needed as much healing. Hopefully it would all balance out with NL. I then went to my main red gem cell on my right hand. I'll need 3 new batteries, please, I told him. Of course, he said, and duplicated 3 times. I'd only used 2 on CL, but I thought I might need more power for her. I gathered everything together, the 2 Ents and the 3 gem cell batteries, and very gently topped them off with power. Before I sent them over, I decided to give them a pet talk. I knew the power of a good motivational start. That's how I'd gotten this amazing body I had now. I'd inspired T to really go for it, and he delivered beyond my wildest expectation. Before you head on to your latest project, I just want to say thank you. The Ents have done an amazing job for me and my body, and the job they did on CL is nothing short of inspiring. I looked at my 2 flowering trees, and they both rustled and bowed. Of course, it takes power to do all this, and you gem cells have come through every time. In fact, you are so good that there's still a lot of power left in CL for its future health and healing. I looked at my 3 orthogonal gem cells. They couldn't bow, of course, so they shimmied and sparkled a bit. Today I'm sending you off on a special mission. You aren't just healing an injury or fusing a broken bone back together, although those are wonderful things to do. No, instead I'm asking you to fix something that has been wrong for a long time. I paused. This isn't just about healing someone. This is about changing a way of life. NL never ran with the other children when she was young. She's never done Irish clogging like we saw at the banquet. Going to the store to get a few items is not easy for her, especially in this place where it seems like they run everywhere. She hasn't complained though. She hasn't become bitter or thought she was less than the others. Instead, she's developed her artistic talent. She has become a fabric artisan, and she creates her own beauty in this world. I've been asked to give her creativity legs, and now in turn I'm asking you. Give her a body that matches her creative spirit. Let her run and experience a larger world than she inhabits now. Let her dance with joy and hop with happiness. Okay, I was laying on a bit thick and taking some creative liberties, but this was supposed to be motivational after all. I'd almost said they should give her wings beneath her dreams, but I was afraid they would take me literally and try to give her wings. In closing, we have a chance to make a positive difference in her life. Do your best, and I know that I'm already proud of you. I gazed at the 5 of them gladly, pouring my soul and hope into them. They were so wound up they practically vibrated with enthusiasm. I was discovering the realm of the aura and soul. I was discovering that at the realm of aura and soul, intentions mattered, hope mattered, inspirations mattered. I was giving them all I had, and they were loving it. They were ready, so I sent them over to NL. The Ents placed 1 battery in her human chest, 1 on the front of her llama body, and 1 at the back. Then the Ents put down their roots and started thinking. This was the part where they mapped out all the changes that needed to happen. It was the most important part of the process, especially for her, and it would probably take a while. So I gave her 1 more good scan to get a good, clear, before image in my head. This time I paid attention to her magic core and realized there was another problem. CL's core was about the size of a walnut with a hard skin to match. Her core was much larger, about the size of an apple, and the shell was starting to fail. There was a noticeable bulge where the skin was weakest, and the pressure from her magic was starting to bubble out. That could not be good. Before I said anything that possibly alarmed her, I decided to check out the other centaur llamas. After all, the captain and most of her guard were still within range of my magic sight. It turned out they had cores like CL, only smaller. They were more like pecans and seemed almost solid. NL's core was clearly an anomaly, and the bulge did not look healthy. Okay, I said brightly to NL. I wanted to start this discussion on the right foot if possible. The healing has been set up. Once it gets started, you should feel a pleasant tingle, and then you should start feeling very happy. NL had been tense while I'd been concentrating, but now she relaxed. You mean Purple Queen happy? She laughed. I saw my uncle when he came home. He was hanging out on the clouds. That is true, I smiled. He smiled. I was feeling like the Buddha. Well, just take it easy when that happens, I said. It would be ironic if you fell down and got hurt while you were healing. CL laughed and looked at his niece fondly. No worries about that. I'll be right here to take care of her. I think that's a great idea, I said. But who's going to take me home? Oh, CL looked surprised. I hadn't thought about that. He gave the centaur a questioning look. She gave him a hard look right back. She was not the kind of centaur to carry a mage around. Sia looked torn. I'm sure he didn't want to leave his niece here while she was tripping the light fantastic. On the other hand, I needed to get back to my suite, and I couldn't get there on my own. Didn't you say the young waiter from the banquet lived across from you? I asked. Maybe he could help. That is a good idea, CL said. I'll message him. He tapped on his wristband and started making motions in the air. I'd never noticed his wristband before. CL was always dressed like a butler, and I guess it had just gone unnoticed with his uniform. Centaurs might not have a bank stamp like mages do, but it seemed like they found a way to have most of the same functionality. Now, how was I going to bring up her magic core? I couldn't just blurt out that I had a soft spot, that it had a soft spot like a balloon, and I was afraid it was going to pop. I have a question for you, I said to NL. Who do you go to check on your magic cores? Do you have a mage that helps with that? Magic core? She looked perplexed. So did CL and the captain. And that is the end of the chapter. So my editor's been after me. She's like, your chapters are too long, and this one was really long, so she told me to split it into two, which I did. So you're just going to have to wait to the next chapter to discover what is going to go down, and it goes down in a big way. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to the next chapter for you all. I know I always say that, but this is really exciting. So anyway, see you guys next week. Take care, and have a wonderful day. Hey, you want to say bye? Eight. Boo-boo. Say bye. Oh, well, he says bye. Oh, there he goes. Say bye, everybody. Bye. Okay.